Hey there, you're more than welcome in this last video talking about Azure Active Directory, where this one is all about using another Azure Active Directory feature called Azure AD Application Proxy. Azure AD Application Proxy allows for publishing on-premises running applications to be directly accessed from the internet. Quite important in a secured way. Azure AD Application Proxy is a service which is available out of Azure Active Directory Basic and Premium SKUs. It's not available in the free version. Azure AD Application Proxy is based on a connector like an on-prem agent that you install on an on-premises server, which basically centralizes all traffic from the internet coming through the My Apps access panel that I covered in the previous video, which is destined to your on-premises running web applications and then forwarding the request to the endpoint application server. All communication, all traffic is being rerouted through SSL communication port 443 and basically exposing your internal running web applications to be available from the outside world by using the Azure Access Panel that I covered in the previous. So the way to get this working is pretty easy. First of all, you enable it in Azure AD, meaning within Azure Active Directory, you activate the option to use Application Proxy. Once the activation is done, you download the Application Proxy connector, you install it in your on-premises network. Out of the Azure AD portal, you configure or specify your internal URL for the application, where you basically set the publishing application pointing to the internal route. It will remap to myinternalapplication.msapplicationproxy.net, allowing users to connect to this internal running web application directly from the access panel. So in the same way as I talked about connecting from the access panel to public SaaS applications in the previous video, I'm going to show you how Azure AD Application Proxy does the exact same thing, but for using internal running web applications. So this brings me to another interesting demo, showing you how it's working, but also how to configure it from the beginning, and showing you how your internal web applications can be exposed to the internet in a secured way, having traffic encryption, leveraging on already discussed additional Azure Active Directory features like multi-factor authentication. For the time being, management is still done from the old Azure Classic portal, although some new changes are upcoming in the Azure Resource Manager portal. Now, since it's too early in preview, I'm not really going to use that one for this course. So from the Azure Classic portal, I select again my Active Directory. From here, I go back to the My Applications Configurations section, where I'm going to add another application. This time, I'm selecting the third option, publish an application that will be accessed from outside your network, which basically means it's an on-premises running application. It's not directly published to the internet though, and I want to expose it out of the access panel. This could be the myapps.microsoft.com or my intranet portal, and then giving it the internal name in the exact same way how my end users connect to it, but then integrating with Azure Active Directory. In the second part of the configuration, I have to download a connector and then sign in user accounts from the portal. In the last part of the configuration steps, you could also upload a custom image to make sure or to emphasize how the application looks like, to make sure that the users recognize the application, as well as specifying the external URL. So I could connect using any URL name, and then it will point to my internal Active Directory tenant name or application tenant name, or using the public name of the tenant. In this demo, I'm going to use the internal one to emphasize that I'm connecting to the internal running application and integrating with Application Proxy. So this basically completes the configuration on the Azure side. If I'm now logging on again to the My Apps portal, again authenticating as the end user, you will see that obviously company branding is still there, multi-factor authentication is still there, because in the end it's part of Azure Active Directory Authentication Security. And then my internal exposed application, which in this scenario is called Azure Backup, is available. By selecting this, it will redirect me to my internal running web application. And as you can see, I'm connecting to the backup web application with the name myazuretenants.msapplicationproxy.net. If I'm now refreshing my browser because for some reason it's not showing the full image, there we go. Although it seems to be a little bit of a latency for this specific demo environment. Now, all in all, this is it. It's nothing more complex than this. To configure Azure Active Directory admin side, installing the Azure Application Proxy connector on my local running server or multiple servers, and from there using it in the My Apps user portal or again from the Office 365 applications section. This brings me to the end of this video, and at the end of the first section in which I covered Azure Active Directory Application Proxy, and then ending this part with another demo. In the next section, I'll cover Azure Monitoring and Diagnostics.